All right, so we're going to probably begin soon. So, hi everyone, nice to see so many of you guys here. I'm Amanda Zoe. I'm the president of Math Invitational for Girls, and I would love to welcome everyone to the first part of our 2021 college seminar. We have four lovely speakers with us today from Columbia, Georgia Tech, Rice, and Stanford. We're really happy to see everyone really actively engaging in seminars like these to learn more about college and the process. And it's especially hard now because everything is virtual with the pandemic. But last year, I had a lot of personal time visiting different campuses, and I love talking to students from different universities, kind of to getting to know their own high school experiences and how they apply to college and everything. So since we cannot do that this year, unfortunately, we thought we would kind of bring some student representatives to you guys who can still try and give you some of their knowledge and guidance. So I really hope everyone enjoys this seminar and kind of gets something out of it, learn a few things maybe that you didn't know before, and please feel free to ask questions. You can always type them in the chat as the speaker is going along, and we will also get to some of your questions at the end of the Zoom at the end of the speaker's presentation, and they'll answer some of the questions that you guys had from the Google Forms as well. So now, very quickly, I will introduce the MIG team and MIG itself. So MIG is an organization established around 6 years ago, really aiming towards breaking down the gender bias in STEM. So we organize different competition events from individual tests to seminars like these to inspire and really motivate young women. So for the MIG team, we have a few members. So first we have Marissa, who is the vice president of MIG. So if Marissa, you want to introduce yourself very quickly?
Hi everyone, I'm Marissa Liu. I'm a sophomore at Colorado High School, and in addition to math, I like to play piano and flute and swim. And I'm so glad that everyone is here, and I hope you guys enjoy the seminar.
Great, thank you, Marissa. Next, we have Sydney, who is our Director of Logistics. So you can also go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, I'm Sydney Kong. I go to Houston High School. I'm a sophomore. And in addition to math, I also enjoy playing chess. I hope you enjoy it.
Thank you, Sydney. Next, we also have Ira, who is our Director of Marketing.
Hi everybody, my name is Ira Sharma. I'm a freshman at White Station High School, and I really enjoy Model UN and running.
Thank you, Ira. And finally, we have our two problem writers and website developers, Alex and Jerry.
Hey guys, my name is Alex. I'm a senior at Colorado High School, and while I do really enjoy math, I also like Chick-fil-A Cobb salads, and my favorite sport is powerlifting. And I hope you all enjoy the seminar today.
Hello everyone, my name is Jay Shao. I'm currently a freshman at Memphis University School. I really enjoy writing math problems and solving math problems. I hope you all have a really enjoyable time.
Great, thank you. So this is the team who has been working over the past few weeks to bring you guys this college seminar. And here on the screen, we have the order of our speakers. And unfortunately, today our Duke speaker was unable to come, and I apologize to those who were looking forward to her, but she will definitely be here for our next seminar, which is January 23rd. So without further ado, Ira, you can go ahead and introduce our first speaker.
Our first speaker is Shelly Michaels from Columbia University. She's an undergraduate receiving her political science degree, and she came to Columbia after receiving a degree from community college. Everyone, please help me in welcoming Shelly Michaels.
Hi everyone, thank you for the introduction, Ira. I'm gonna try and figure out how to share my screen because I'm not very tech savvy. Let's see if this works. Let me know. If it doesn't, can you see my whole screen? What can you see? Oh, this is my whole screen. All right, you guys are getting an intro into my life, but, okay. So I'm gonna just start presenting. Let me put my computer on Do Not Disturb. It is already on Do Not Disturb. Okay, hi everyone. My name is Shelly Michael. and I'm going to tell you about my journey to Columbia University. I'm going to try and keep it brief so that I can answer as many questions as possible. So this is my first year at Columbia. I am a junior. I'm a political science major, and I'm a transfer. So I've already finished 2 years at community college, and from community college, I transferred to Columbia University. A little bit about my background. I'm an immigrant. I moved to the United States when I was almost 11 years old, and I'm also a first generation college student. Let me tell you a little bit about my high school experience. So I went to Fremont High School, which is a high school, it's a public school in California. In my freshman year, I did speech and debate. Then I joined this volunteering tutoring service, and I helped found it. That was called FHS Soul. And sophomore year, I became a speech captain on the speech and debate team. I entered speech competition, and I placed in those competitions. I also ran and became French Honor Society president, and I also did theater. In junior year of high school, I quit speech and debate, and I focused on theater. I taught senior citizens in a senior citizen theater class that I started. I continued with French Honor Society, and I served as the president. And then senior year, I was really in theater and French Honor Society. When you're applying as a transfer student, I really think that the experience that I've had in community college was the experience that got me into Columbia. And so I'll focus a little bit more about that. And I'd love to answer any questions about community college as well. So when I was choosing a college in high school, I did not consider a lot of factors. As I said, what factors did I consider in applying? Really none. I wasn't very critical in my decision-making process, and I really regret that. In high school, I didn't have the same resources as my friends. My friends had like the college counselors that helped them with the process. And I would, overhear like, oh, I'm applying to this university. And I was like, oh, I've heard of that university. I should apply there. And I think that's a really common experience for high schoolers. I also didn't really consider which schools I would actually go to. I applied to schools all over the country. And I ended up with choices of university of UW and University of Oregon, both great schools. I did not want to live in any of those locations, however, and I also could not afford going to those schools because I didn't look into financial aid when I was applying out of high school. So that was my application process out of high school. Now I went to De Anza College, which is also a college in California. And when I was applying out of high school, I was a business major, and I was like, I want to do business. I love business. Yes, this is perfect for me. And then as soon as I got to college and they showed me the requirements I had to do for business, I was like, ooh, maybe this is not my thing. Maybe I should try to do something else. And then I saw the requirements for poli-sci, and this is super dramatic, but I like almost cried because I was so excited about taking the classes that we had to offer for poli-sci. So I took my Poly 1 class, and in the Poly 1 class, I heard about this program called Public Policy School. And it was a program that let you go and advocate to legislators in both Sacramento, and then we also got to go to Washington, D.C. And it was so cool, and I applied, and I didn't think I was going to get it. Actually, at my interview, they said, would you be okay if you didn't get into this program to try and apply next year? And I was like, yeah, I would be. And I was super sad, and I thought I wouldn't get it, and then I got it. And it led to, I think, I think saying all the opportunities I had in community college is a little bit dramatic, but I think every opportunity that I've had, what I've learned is every opportunity led to another opportunity and another opportunity and another opportunity. So I think it's really important to, when you're looking at someone's resume and it looks super overwhelming, I mean, they did so many things, to think about it as a gradual process. You're doing one thing and then you're moving to another thing. So I know it could be a little bit overwhelming, and I'll tell you about all my experiences, but it was really a gradual process. So in that class, out of public policy school, I met with Representative Ro Khanna, and I also met with, Evan Lowe, who's an assembly member. I ended up getting an internship with Ro Khanna in the spring. And then in the summer, I internship with Assembly member Evan Lowe. I also volunteered for an organization named Siren because we need to do 12 hours of volunteering. And I really liked it. Siren is Services for Immigration Rights and Education Network. And so I did canvassing, and that was super cool. And I really enjoyed that. I also, in my first quarter of De Anza, heard about this, the student government there. I didn't know a lot about it, and I was really thinking about not doing it. And then someone in my class actually was filling a signature sheet, and you needed to get enough signatures in order to be able to run for student council. And I was like, you know what, this is like my sign. I need to do this. I was thinking about doing this, and now someone's doing it. I need to do it. Long story short, I ended up becoming a senator, and then I ran for elections and became my student government president. And so I served as student government president, which was a bulk of my second year in community college. I had to go to 4 committee meetings per week, 2 shared governance meetings. I did office hours. I ran the general body meeting. I met with my school president and other administratives. It was a really overwhelming role, but it was one of the best experiences I've had. Through this opportunity as DSB president, I got to hear about the Flynn Center, and the Flynn Center was this building on my campus, and it was going to be either renovated or torn down because it didn't meet safety standards. And my school was dealing with a huge housing insecurity problem. And so I got involved in this amazing student effort to get the Flynn Center to be turned into student housing. And so we spent months going to meetings, advocating for student housing, and we ended up getting a bond measure on the ballot approved by our board of trustees, which is a lot of things that no one needs to know about, but it's this whole bureaucracy. But we ended up getting a bond measure, and we ended up securing $898 million for our schools, for our school district, and $200 to $300 million reserved for housing. Now, if you asked me about bonds or student housing when I started at De Anza, I would have told you I have no idea. But all of these opportunities really led me to be, a leader in this student effort. At De Anza, I also so after really the first year at community college, I finished, I think, all the classes that I needed to transfer apart from maybe 1 or 2. But I already committed to be student body president. I love the environment at De Anza. And also when you're applying from community college, if you're applying the first year that you're at community college, schools can only really see like your first semester, first quarter grades. So it's a little bit harder to show your academic excellence through that. So I had a lot of time on my hands, so I chose to go with certificates. So other than I got 2 degrees from community college, I also ended up getting 2 certificates. And from one of those programs, it was a Humanities Mellon Scholars Program, I ended up also getting an internship. And so I interned for marketing for the Palo Alto Art Center, which is not very poli-sci and wasn't really related to my major, but it was a really great opportunity. And I would also encourage you to seek opportunities beyond ones that are related to the one thing you're going to study that you might not even know yet, and that's totally fine. All right, so when I was applying from De Anza, I'm sorry, I'm not sure if you can see the right side of my screen because I cannot, because your faces are on it, which is totally fine, but I hope that you can. But when I was applying out of De Anza, I had a lot more direction. I was older also, and it's really hard to think about these immense concepts when you're so young. You're 15 and 16 thinking about where you want to move for 4 years, what career you want to pursue. These are insane things that you have to think about, and it's very overwhelming. What I encourage, and you could see that when I was applying out of De Anza, I had a lot more direction. So I looked at specific programs in the schools. What actual classes am I going to take at this school versus at this school? If I want to pursue a double major, does this school have both majors? And the specifics, I think, is really important to look at. Another thing that was really big for me was cost of attendance and aid. So how much is the school going to cost to go to, and how much aid do they give out? A lot of schools that I was applying to out of high school, I didn't know how much aid they give. So I could get into the school, but then I wouldn't be able to afford to go there. So that was a huge thing for me. And also location. I remember specifically applying to University of Indiana, which is a great school. By no means a bad school. And then getting in and thinking, would I actually go to Indiana? Like, is that the place where I could see myself? And a lot of people go there and are totally, they love it, right? But for me, I probably wouldn't have moved over to Indiana. Like, that's just like a personal, I wouldn't have done that. So it's important to think, will you actually move to this place? Do you like California? Would you move to California? Do you like New York? Would you move to New York? These are important decisions to think about, important factors to think about. Fun fact, I almost did not apply to Columbia or privates. I remember being at a panel like this. It was physical. I'm sorry, everyone. I know we have to do everything online. I'm doing college online. I get it. But it was a panel. I remember it was one student that went from De Anza to Columbia. And I remember sitting at the panel and just going, oh my God, I could never be that person. This is crazy. Like, these people aren't real. They're doing these amazing things and achieving these amazing feats. That's insane. You know, I could never be that person. Why would I even apply to this school? And I was really overwhelmed and consumed by that. But I think it's really important to think about yourself not in comparison to other people, and also realize that those people are not perfect. I am by no means a perfect student or a perfect advocate or a perfect leader, right? But when you're applying to schools, you're applying for a place where you're going to grow and develop as a student, and they can see that. So my last thing is my biggest takeaways. So first of all, research the schools that you're applying to. Please don't apply to a school because your best friend is applying there, unless it's a really good fit for you. It's really important to take the time to research which schools you want to apply to. Make strong connections. And this, in my journey at De Anza, I think one of the most important things for me was meeting professors and making great connections with those professors. And that's outside of letters of rec. Honestly, it was making those connections with professors and being able to keep up with them and talking to them and getting advice is is just an invaluable thing for you to have. So I'd really, really recommend to make those strong connections. And then the last thing is, you don't need to be perfect. I remember very vividly getting back a grade that I did not want in community college. And it was my fall. So it was right before I was going to apply. And I was like, this is it. Like, this ends everything. You know, I cannot apply to privates now. I cannot do anything. Like, it's over for me now. And I think a lot of people have that. You know, you had that one bad class. You had this one bad thing that happened to you. That doesn't deter you from applying to these schools. Please, please, please still apply. Schools are not going to look at this one thing that happened to you and say, well, they're not fit to be here. And that's what I thought, and I almost didn't apply. But Columbia is a perfect fit for me. And even virtually, I'm having, well, I think the time of my life will be a little bit much, but I'm really, really enjoying my classes. And that's it for my presentation. So I would love to answer any questions that anyone might have. I'm not able to stay until the end because I start school next week, so I have to do loads of readings. But I would love to answer any questions in the chat. I don't go on Facebook very often, so I'm gonna send my Instagram in the chat. And if you want to DM me any questions that you may have, I would love to answer that when I'm a little bit less busy. So I'm gonna send that out. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask me.
Well, I really love your presentation.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Oh, no, sorry. I'm from the next presenter. I just couldn't get Zoom working on my laptop, so I used my phone.
We have a question in the chat. Well, first I just wanted to say that I really enjoyed your presentation, and I am starstruck that you interned for Rokunda. I look up to him so much. So in the chat, we have a question that says, when are you graduating at Columbia, and are classes difficult?
Yeah, so I'm graduating next year. So actually, I've never been to Columbia. I'm a junior and I've never been. I'll be there for my senior year, though. I'm graduating in 2022. And classes are difficult in the sense that, I think saying difficult in the sense that they're challenging is a little bit convoluted, but they challenge you. But I've learned so much. I've grown as a writer. Like, I can see my trajectory as a writer through my classes. So I think classes are definitely a little bit more difficult, depending on which class, than my community college classes. But they're very rewarding. And if you have the skills of a good student, you can succeed in these classes. Like, I came in thinking that, I was an A student, so I'm coming in, I'm aiming for these B's and C's. But you can, if you're an A student, if you can, and not even being an A student, if you have the skills, the study skills, and the tenacity to work through these classes, you can excel. I can guarantee that. It's not something that's impossible. Yeah. would
I
love.
wanted to ask you, so I know you're doing a political science major, so I wanted to ask you, do you feel that your classes or your major is male dominated? And do you ever feel that as a woman, sometimes your voice is heard differently or not taken as seriously?
Yeah, so I think this is different right now because it's more of a virtual environment. So there's not a lot of that classroom experience and you can't see the people. I think that there is a good female presence. There's a lot of women, I think, in political science now. Um, but I've had an experience in community college when I was actually running to be student body president. And the person I was running against was a man. And actually, there was this whole thing, but a lot of people who were going to be running with me decided to run with this person. I ended up winning anyways. But I think a lot of it was not like our skills put next to each other, but the way that he presented as being taller and a man, and he seemed more assertive and more fit for the role than I am, but he was not. And it ended up winning and doing a great job as student body president. So I think when sometimes you're put in these situations and you're running for something and you're going, or maybe you're having a debate even in class against someone who's a man, and it can be more difficult because they can sometimes seem more assertive and use fancy words and assert themselves in this way, right? And people, sometimes I think there's been like research where like men are more likely to listen to men talking in the classroom. But I think it's really important to stay grounded in in who you are. And if you're a smart person, if you've done your research, if you're capable, and if you're committed, you're going to do wonderfully. And you just need to be confident in yourself, which sounds super, super cliche. And I have a hard time doing that. And even today, I was so nervous to present. I was like shaking and like drinking my water from my water bottle, like shaking. But you need to be confident in yourself and your ability.
We have one last question that we received on the registration form of what inspires you.
Oh, that's a great question. This is a little bit. I'll give two answers because I think one of them is a little bit self-centered, and I cannot only go with that answer. I think my grandma inspires me, which is a little bit cheesy. But she was also an immigrant, and she moved when she was 40 years old and started her own business and did wonderfully. And so she is just like an inspirational person to me, and I really looked up to her in the way that she manages herself, and she carries herself with strength. When my grandma enters a room, and I've always admired that. And another thing that inspires me or helps keep me going is understanding my own capacity throughout. When I started community college, I would have never imagined that I would be student body president or anything like that. And the more things that I got done, the more things I was able to achieve and more challenges I was able to push through, I saw my own potential and capacity through that. And I think the more you're able to get in touch with yourself and where you put your boundaries to, what you cannot do at a certain point. You need to know where you put your limits, but also you need to know what you can achieve. I think this last semester at Columbia, it was obviously my first semester, and I was so scared for classes, and I didn't know that I could write a really good paper. And after you do those things and you understand your own ability to achieve, I think that's an inspiring thing as well. I hope that wasn't too self-centered.
No, I like that answer.
I think it's everyone can learn from themselves as well. It's really, really important to learn from yourself.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate your presentation. I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to Jerry to introduce our next speaker.
All right, our second speaker for today is Jessie, who is a computer science major at Georgia Tech. She grew up in Duluth and has been teaching since high school, from tutoring middle schoolers to classmates for perfect ACT scores. She is very involved in her community and is even developing prototypes in a Grand Challenge program. Please join me in welcoming Jessie.
Hey, so thanks for coming. Today I'll be talking about applying to Georgia Tech and kind of like giving an example with my Georgia Tech application. Next slide. So application requirements. Here I just kind of put some like general averages. So like I think in recent years the acceptance rate has been around 20%. When I applied, it was like around 25%. And GPA is weighted differently based on your high school because like some high schools use like a 5.0 scale instead of a 4.0 scale. So don't be like too intimidated if you don't have a perfect 4.0. I definitely did not. And those are just some like median SAT and ACT scores. Georgia Tech usually takes like the personal statement, which most schools require, and like you pick using the Common App. But this year they did not because of COVID. I don't know if that will be the case for like 2021 if you're planning to apply this year for college, like if you're currently a junior. There's also 2 extra essays that you have to write, such as the YTech essay and usually a second one that like changes a bit. When I did it, I think it was like talk about your identity a little bit, like name any like hobbies or involvement in the community that you might have been involved in that you don't think you went over already in your application. So it's just a chance to like show off your personality a little more to the admissions officers. And this year, when my little sister applied, it was like how like it was about the Georgia Tech motto, which is I think it's like service and progress or something like that. So yeah. Also you need a teacher recommendation. For teacher recommendations, like I understand if it's like not possible to be like super close to your teacher, especially if you attend like a public school and that teacher has a lot of students. So the best thing you can do is probably like contact them early to do it, like with 2 weeks or something. And you'll have to write like an email requesting the recommendation. And when you do that, like remind them who you are, like what class you are in. It's also possible to like ask recommendations from a teacher that taught you in 10th grade. Although it's better if you can like ask a teacher that you had in 11th or 12th grade because they'll be like more recent and you'll be more like fresh in their mind, and they can probably like include more anecdotes from when you were in their class. Another thing about the recommendation is that usually in the email when you ask the teacher to like write the recommendation, which will be like maybe at least 2 weeks before the application is due, you should attach like a list of achievements. Like we call this a brag sheet. It like feels a little cringe to write it out sometimes, but it's really useful for the teacher because they can like just sort of highlight like why you're like a special student to them and like what qualities they think would be applicable in college. Georgia Tech also had an art portfolio for like industrial design if you're interested in that, or if you like do any artworks on the side. I think they also have something for music. And oh, a question. And you can also link like a personal website. For example, if you want to apply as computer science and you kind of want to like showcase that, oh, I've learned how to program, I can like make a website and like use CSS and like style fonts and stuff like that. And also a resume in case you like had previous internships or work experience, which is also a great thing to have. I'll go like check the chat now before I go on to the next slide. Do you think it matters what teacher, depending on their class, writes your letter of recommendation? Like would a math teacher be better than a philosophy teacher? Okay, so something to keep in mind for this question is that Georgia Tech is like a technical institute, and it also like kind of relates to what major you want. So I think it would be great like if you are applying to be a mathematics major, you get a recommendation from your math teacher and they say you're really good at math. Like that would be very aligned. However, it's not necessary because I also applied to like be a tech major, which is like my major was computer science when I applied. And the teachers that I asked for recommendations for were not like mathy at all. Like honestly, my math grades weren't like the best in high school. So I asked my language arts teacher and my art teacher because I did like a lot of visual arts electives in high school. And I don't think Georgia Tech requires that you even do like core courses because some people like, I mean, some colleges will be like, they have to be history, math, science, or English, but I don't think Georgia Tech requires both teachers do that. And I think it was 2 teachers when I applied, but now it's only 1 teacher recommendation, maybe because of COVID. I'm not sure. This might change in the future. What job do you want to get with your degree? Okay, well, since I'm a computer science major, I would probably go for like software engineering. And there's like different types of software engineering. There's front end and back end. And like within all of those, there's like infrastructure. But that's sort of like veers away from the college application itself. So let's get back to that. Oh yeah. Okay, Liz. Also, I applied pretty much to like in-state schools and then like some reach schools like Ivy League, Stanford, and MIT, because in-state, if you're like in-state for Georgia Tech, they have like the Georgia scholarships. I think like the Hope Scholarship and the Zell Miller Scholarship. And I'll definitely go into the scholarships in a later slide. But oh yeah, I was waitlisted to Emory and I didn't get into any of the reach schools, so I go to Georgia Tech now. Okay, the student body. So if you're in state, you get like a bit of an advantage because Georgia Tech is a public school, and it will prioritize like educating kids that are in the state currently. Out of state acceptance rate is a little lower than in state, as you can see. Also, we get a lot of flack for our bad male-female ratio. This is sort of like a recurring problem for like technical institutes, but the good thing about this is that, oh wait, never mind. I thought I got like a new question, but it wasn't. The good thing about that is if you are a girl that can apply, like you do have a bit of edge because like it's only 31% female as opposed to 70% male. Next slide. Okay, so this is just like an example of like the ratio of majors that you can expect to see if you decide to attend Georgia Tech. So like as expected of a technical institute, most of us are engineering. The College of Computing is growing really fast, like so fast that they created a new major recently, which didn't exist when I applied. It's called computational media. And honestly, I kind of wish it did exist when I applied because it sounds like something that I would have been into, but it's like something that lets you sort of like do more like designy video gamey things within like computer science. There's also like computer engineering if you like prefer hardware instead of software. I just happen to know a lot about the College of Computing because that's the one that I'm currently enrolled in, but there are others too. So there's the College of Sciences, which is like, I think physics, chemistry, biology, and also environmental science. There's Scheller, which is the College of Business. We also offer like MBAs. Ivan Allen College is liberal arts. So yes, Georgia Tech has liberal arts majors. You can come here and major in liberal arts. That is up to you. I can't really speak to like the experience there, but like it definitely exists. And there's also a College of Design. There's a lot of architecture majors there. And if you pick a major within the College within the College of Design, you can expect to like spend a lot of time in studio doing like applied designs and like blueprints and learning how to use like design software. It's also like pretty easy to switch majors because when I applied, like I know someone that got in as like chemistry, but he knew like he wanted to do computer science. He just didn't want to apply as computer science for some reason. So like after he got in, he just switched immediately to computer science. That's definitely a thing. And actually a lot of people do end up switching within their like years here. And also because of this, like not everyone will graduate in 4 years. It's okay to not graduate in 4 years. A lot of people will take like 5 years or more because their plans change. Like you finish maybe half of your psychology major and then you decide to switch to neuroscience. Oh yeah, Sasha asked, what are the Scheller and Ivan Allen degrees? Those sound like names. Okay, Sasha, my bad. Those are names. Those are just like the school. So the school will offer like multiple, like the school that you're in will offer multiple majors. So it's just like a subgroup of the whole Georgia Tech Institute. The Georgia Technical Institute. Georgia Institute of Technology. Yeah. So like, you're right. Those are names. Scheller is just like the blanket school for like all business degrees. And Ivan Allen is like blanket for all liberal arts degrees. You can like major in like a language too, like German. That would be an example of a liberal arts degree. Oh, another thing that's really useful is that if you're in high school right now and you have the opportunity to take like college level classes, like AP classes or IB classes, you can get credit for those classes and not have to take them when you're in college, which is super great because physics in Georgia Tech is more rigorous than physics that was taught at my high school. So what you can do is like maybe like get a 5 on AP Physics C or something like that. And then you don't have to take intro physics at Georgia Tech, which is very helpful. But also if you're like really good at programming, for example, like right out of high school, you can also test out of an intro programming class just by proving you can program. Like they'll basically give you the final exam for that class and then you can take it and you can get out of it. So that way a lot of people actually do manage to graduate early. They don't necessarily graduate early, but they can like basically cut down on the required level of classes. So they could if they wanted to, and they have more room to take like gap semesters or study abroad or do internships and co-ops at companies. And here's a little like tidbit. I don't know how useful this is, but I know a lot of people that currently like go to Georgia Tech, like they've been admitted to Georgia Tech. They indicated that they wanted to continue education with like grad school or get like a PhD or master's in like the future plans section of the application. You don't have to like do it. This is not binding. Like I said that, and I definitely don't plan to do grad school. I actually just plan to work in industry. But I think it's useful to like keep your options open in case, because Georgia Tech like does consider if the students that go there for undergrad do want to do masters in the future. And they actually have like something that lets you complete a master's and a bachelor's program in as little as 4 or 5 years. And you can like double up on classes. So a class you could take can like count for both your undergrad degree and your master's degree. So that stuff could be useful if you're planning on applying using the Common App. Next slide. Oh yeah, I'm saying next slide because I'm like, oh, someone asked a question. Okay, Liz said, can you give us some ideas on who or what firms recruit on campus and where do the graduates go? Okay, yeah, so firms that recruit on campus, like you see them on career fair. So definitely like big tech companies. I'm saying this because like I'm a computer science major. So the only career fair that like I went to personally was like the the computer career fair, like the College of Computing's career fair. But there's like Google, Facebook, Apple. I enter that Slack personally. One that my electrical engineering friends went to was Lockheed Martin, General Electric. There are some consulting companies as well, like EY, DE Shaw. A lot of like companies, like they don't come to campus, but they'll post their like jobs onto like Handshake, which is this platform that like is only for well, I mean that sort of like you unlock with your Georgia Tech login, and they can also get opportunities there, like Goldman Sachs. There's also like local companies as well, like Urginet, and there's also like startups hiring in Atlanta too. Atlanta is like a pretty good place for starting a business right now, I feel. Oh yeah, okay, so this slide, if you do live in Georgia, oh wait, okay, wait, I'll just finish this and then answer the new question. So if you live in Georgia, I think something that could be really good for your application is taking like actual classes at Georgia Tech. And you can get college credit this way too. So like, since we're all STEM, well, most of the people attending Georgia Tech are STEM majors. They have to take like linear algebra and like calculus, and those aren't like offered in the AP curriculum. So if you finish taking like your AP classes or whatever, and you need to like go on to the next thing, you can just actually take classes at Georgia Tech. And it's called distance learning. So it's through like Zoom. Even like before COVID was a thing, it was like through Zoom, I think. But I think if an admission officer saw that you had taken classes at Georgia Tech and gotten good grades in them, that's a really good sign. Liz said it's a private school, right? Georgia Tech is not a private school. So, I mean, that's a good thing, I feel, since like you get like more scholarships that way. But if you're an out-of-state student, is it possible to apply and transfer to Georgia Tech after your first year at an in-state college? Oh, yeah, I think so, because Georgia Tech takes a lot of transfer students from in-state colleges such as UGA, GSU, and Kennesaw. In fact, they actually have this thing where like, if you don't get in regular, they sometimes give you a conditional acceptance where it's like you go to a college your first year and you have to keep a minimum 3.3 GPA. And then after that, you can transfer into Georgia Tech. That's called like a conditional offer. But I don't know if the conditional offer is accepted for out-of-state students. I just know like in-state students have that as an option because I know people have done it. And then someone said, okay, Nancy said, is it free? If you're in-state and you get the Zell Miller Scholarship, it is free. And there's also other scholarships that cover the cost and more. I'll go over that in a future slide. Sorry, I'm getting lots of financial questions, but like I will address it later on here. Liz also asked, where did I go for high school? I went to Johns Creek High School. So it's in Duluth, Georgia. It's like a county in Georgia, a little above Atlanta, where Georgia Tech is. I hadn't really gone to Georgia Tech before I actually like started going there for college though. Also, Sasha said, is 3.3 like a B? Okay, so rule of thumb, 3.0 is a B, 4.0 is A. So 3.3 is kind of like you got 3 Bs and 1 A, and like 3.7 would be like a 90 average, I think. So like if you got 2 A's and 2 B's, you would have a 3.5, like a 50-50 ratio of A's and B's. Okay, next. Next is the slide you've all been waiting for, which is the scholarships and financial aid slide. Thanks. Okay, so in-state tuition, yep, yay scholarships. In-state scholarships are Hope and Zell Miller. So for Hope, you need to maintain a 3.0 GPA in college. As someone mentioned earlier, that is a like straight B's. And then to keep it, you do have to keep maintaining the 3.0 while in college. You can't just like do well in high school and then like be failing college and like still have your tuition paid by the state. Unfortunately, like I guess you have to keep it up after high school as well. And it won't cover the whole thing, but it'll cover like a good amount. So like up here, you can see that tuition's like $10,258 a year, but Hope will cover like 7,000 of that. So I think you would actually have to pay like $2,000 or $3,000. Zell Miller, on the other hand, is just like 3.7 GPA. So if you get like mostly A's, they will cover the entire thing. And in college, you don't need straight A's in college. You can just get a 3.3. And also these are weighted, which means like which means that the Georgia board or something will add like 0.5 GPA points for certain STEM classes. So like an example is 1 year I did really badly in math and I had like maybe like a 2.9 GPA actually, except because of the +5 thing, it looked like I had a 3.4. So like I still got tuition paid off, even though I literally had a 2.9. And okay, out-of-state scholarships. There's like a whole entire list of these, but they differ depending on whether you're like a US citizen and whatever major you are. Some of them don't really care. Like I think stamps is open to everyone. Stamps is probably the most well-known because they give you so much. Like I think they even give you money to like buy a laptop and like study abroad. They call this like an enrichment stipend. And if you go to that link, you can see like a lot more. This list is being constantly updated. And I think some of them might require you to like write a few essays, but not all of them do. For some of them, you can just like maybe like check a box and then as long as you fit the qualifications, you're good. And also some of them depend on like whether you played ice hockey or not, which is very strange. Like there's a lot of like really specific scholarships that vary on a case-by-case basis. I'll check the chat again. Where do CS majors intern? So CS majors tend to intern at like tech companies, but I mean Georgia Tech is like pretty well like respected by Californian companies as well, even though it's like not in California. Like I know this because like for example, I got responses back from Stripe and stuff, and also like I did here's something that I do that maybe isn't the best, but I don't list my GPA on my resume because it's not like a perfect like 4.0 or even like a 3.8 or 3.9. Like I would say don't list your GPA on your resume that you are sending to companies unless it's really good. Like otherwise just like leave it out. Like they don't care if you go to like Georgia Tech. They just be like, oh, this person goes to Georgia Tech. That's good enough for me. I'll still interview them even though I don't know whether they're failing at Georgia Tech or not. That's like fine. All right, so now that we've gone over some unethical job application tips, let's go on to the next slide. Okay, so this slide is basically what I put on my Why Georgia Tech essay because it has a bunch of specific Georgia Tech programs that they offer. And every school will probably offer like some variation of these programs. Like a lot of schools will have study abroad, but these are some like specific Georgia Tech ones. So Georgia Tech has a campus in France called GT Lorraine. They also have an extra campus in Savannah. I just didn't put it under study abroad because Savannah is like still in Georgia. It's just not the main Atlanta campus. There's also a lot of opportunities for undergraduate research. Usually these are referred to as UROPs, which stand for like undergraduate research opportunities. To get a UROP, you can usually like attend fairs or sessions that they have. Usually an email will be sent out to like all students. Email is really important in college, by the way. Like the email list you are on like sort of determine like how you know what events are being held. And like events are pretty good for like networking and the like, and like basically knowing where to apply and all that stuff before you even like get into the application process. Georgia Tech also has this specific thing called VIPs, which are called vertically integrated projects. What that means is basically you sign up to take a course. There's no like selectivity really. It's just like a professor that's doing a project and wants like undergrads in specific majors to help. So maybe like some professor is doing a data science project. He'll be like, oh, I would like some computer science freshmen or juniors or seniors to like help me with this project. He will create a VIP and you can sign up for VIP and like sort of go through the list of projects. Like if you go to the Georgia Tech VIP site right now, you can see all the projects they have and you can filter by major. And it's a good way to meet people in other majors because usually it's a group of multiple freshmen on one project, not like a one-to-one student-professor relationship. And also see if research is like something that's fun for you because a lot of people entering Georgia Tech probably don't have prior research experience. They're not considered as like serious as undergraduate research opportunities, which I think is good because that means like you can drop them without much consequence. Whereas like if you were emailing a professor and you guys basically linked up and you decided to like drop it, it could be like pretty bad because maybe he's like paying you. Maybe it's like a undergraduate research assistantship, in which case you would like no longer get paid. And also like the professor would be really inconvenienced for trying to like help out a student. And doing research is really good if you want to do grad school for real because you can probably ask your professor to recommend you. And also you can probably get a paper published, which a lot of graduate schools will look for. Another thing I did was living learning communities. I can't exactly recommend this over like Greek life because I think its biggest selling point is basically the way a living learning community is run is that a bunch of students will live in a dorm together. So like, let's say you're in the Cloudman building, everyone inside that building is part of like the Grand Challenges community. And everyone will like go to the Grand Challenges course like every Tuesday or Thursday. So it's a way to like get to know everyone in your dorm for sure, if that's what you want. And oh, also funny story, being in Grand Challenges actually let me get the COVID vaccine early because through that, like I found like an Emory researcher, like my team found an Emory researcher, and being classified as an Emory researcher puts you in line to get the vaccine, I guess. But that didn't happen to everyone. It really sort of depends on like which topic you went for, because we went to like something medical related. But I know other people were doing like solar power and like water and food and like a lot of other challenges that the course was trying to address. Oh yeah, I'll get to that question. So if any of you are interested in like starting companies in college, which a lot of people try to do, like it doesn't have to be anything serious. It's just sort of fun to like work on your own project. And even if it doesn't like actually give you any revenue, you can list it on your resume or you can talk about it during interviews, like for like jobs at bigger companies. And the recruiter tends to be like pretty interested and impressed that you were able to create a project from beginning to end. Georgia Tech's startup accelerator is called CreateX. CreateX will give you like lots of funding for like no equity sometimes. And there are also like courses that they hold. So you can get like credit for this. For example, in the CS major, and not just CS, like BME and a lot of other majors, you need to do junior capstone design, which is basically like project-based classes where you work with other students to like create a product. There's different courses such as Startup Lab and Idea to Product, which we also call I2P for short. And then I think I mentioned earlier, but to get internships and co-ops, a lot of people go to career fairs. So basically you make your resume like a few weeks or days before the career fair date. You print out a bunch of copies, you carry them around with you as you visit each very crowded booth and in a very big baseball stadium with long lines. That is not how they did it this year because of COVID. We just did like an online event. But honestly, the internship that I ended up taking with Slack was done through like a company event. So there's also like the big building that you see in the second picture, I think, is called the Presidential Suite, or like there's also Tech Tower. So what happens is a lot of big companies such as Google and Facebook, they'll hold like workshops. Like Google might hold a how to design websites or how to do ace the Google interview. Like they'll actually come here and hold those at like maybe 5 or 6 on Tuesday. And you can like go there and there will be free food. Like if you don't know how to cook, like these things are for you. You can just go there and you can get free dinner and you can hand the recruiters there your resume. And it's good to like network there as well, because Google and Facebook and those big companies that present there will have like their engineers who like work on the Atlanta campus or something like that present how to, and you can also get advice from them. A lot of times, actually, yeah, something Georgia Tech really likes to do is take alumni who go to Georgia Tech and have them present to their school. So like Capital One, for example, they sent a Georgia Tech student who had done an internship to Georgia Tech. And it was just like very interesting talking to him because I was like, oh yeah, how did you like get this internship at Capital One? And he was like, oh yeah, well basically just go through this book. It's all like Leak Code, Easy or Mediums, etc. But it felt like I was talking to like a classmate and not a recruiter because he basically was my classmate. He was also a Georgia Tech student. Okay, so questions. I think someone asked about Greek life, which is what I'm about to say. Oh yeah. Any advice on what not to do, what to do or what not to do? Okay, I'll cover that very soon. Okay, so Greek life for Maria is basically like fraternities and sororities. So what you should know about those is that fraternities are all men and sororities are all women. And sometimes they're known for hazing, which is like a difficult selection process in which some people might get hurt. For example, I think for sororities, like you're expected to dress a certain way sometimes. Fraternities, you're probably expected to like do some like crazy stuff. They're known to like host. Okay, so frats are known to like host lots of parties. I'm explaining this really badly. I'm just trying to explain this to like someone who has never heard of this term before. I don't know if this is like what you were asking though. But I think that you should go for Greek life. Actually, I regret not like trying to join. Well, not trying to rush for a sorority, which is what they call like the application for these types of things, because like it's actually pretty cool. I think a lot of people are like intimidated because they feel like people who are in fraternities and sororities have to be like fake focused on looks and stuff like that. But it's not that case at all. They're just like they're just people. And well, it's pretty cool to like have a set group of friends as well, because often like those people grow together. And also someone at MIT, for example, they told me that the sororities at MIT, they share like test banks which hold tests from previous years. So actually joining like a tight-knit group, like a fraternity or sorority, can be good for your grades because everyone will study together and use the resources of previous brothers and sisters. That's a really nerdy like answer because fraternities and sororities are not like just about academics, but that's one of the benefits. There's also lots of clubs such as HackGT and iOS Club where you can learn to make mobile apps. I am naming like lots of computer sciencey clubs because I am a computer science major and I joined those clubs. But there's definitely more. Like there's competitive frisbee, I think, and lots of different dance clubs, and also like lots of cultural clubs like Korean Club and GTIIA, which is like international students. Like if you don't live in the U.S. or if you just want to like eat food from places that aren't the U.S. Let me check chats. Someone asked, do you think Google will still be a big thing in 10 years? Would it be dumb to center your college goals around trying to work there? Okay, so I do think Google is like the best company to work at as a computer science major. Not because Google is a great company and does everything right, but because if someone sees on your resume that you worked at Google, they know that you're technically competent already because you passed the very selective Google interview program. So, but what do you mean by like centering college goals around trying to work there? Do you mean like picking a robust computer science program? Because I think that would be good for like any tech company and not just Google. Like even if Google's not a big thing in 10 years, if you like try to pass the interviews that are required to work at Google, you will like also be preparing yourself to pass the interviews at any similar company. Like the interviews at Google and the interviews at Facebook are like basically the same thing. Yeah. All right, next slide. Okay, so now I'll be talking about my application that got me into Georgia Tech 3 years ago. Yeah, it's 3. Okay, I just realized like this is wild because I applied in 2018 and now it's 2021. But yeah, that is 3 years. Jeez. I don't feel like 2018 is that far behind. Oh wait, let me just answer this question first. Someone said, I know we passed this, but how competitive are out-of-state scholarships at Georgia Tech? I'm not really sure because I'm not out of state, but they're probably pretty competitive. But I mean, you should still try because like saving, like graduating debt free or like with as little debt as possible is a great goal to have. But also like taking advantage of in-state scholarships is also really good. Like one of the best things about going to Georgia Tech as an in-state student is probably like the value. that you get like not having to pay for anything but housing and still getting like a pretty good technical education. All right, anyway. So my GPA was actually like, I think it all averaged out to 90. So basically I got like half A's and half B's. However, my school did this thing where they add 7 points if you take honors or AP classes. And I was taking like a lot of honors and AP classes because I thought it would like look good and also like the college credit in the future. So that's why it says like 97 on the transcript. So weighted, that's like 4.0 because that is like straight A's, I guess, but unweighted is like a 3.7. My ACT was a 36 and my SAT was a 1510. I didn't submit my SAT because they only really required one of those. And like, why would you submit the lower one? Recommendations, I did not ask my math teacher or anything. I asked teachers that weren't like STEM subjects, but I think that was fine. That turned out fine. Extracurriculars, so as you can tell, because I asked like an art teacher for recommendation, I did a lot of visual arts. Like I had a YouTube channel where I would post like digital art. And also there's like a competition called Scholastic Art and Writing Awards. Those are like, if you're like good at art or writing, I would recommend you like enter your art in those because they like give out a lot of stuff, even like money, like if you're like going for SCAT or something like that. I also did math. I'm guessing a lot of you also do math because this is math imitation and this is like MIG. But basically like I co-founded a tutoring club. This does not have to be like a big deal. You can just, oh, am I running out of time? Oh, wow. Okay, I'm way out of time. Okay, so I did like a bunch of other clubs basically. And my personal statement was not even like anything dramatic. It was just like a random topic. And basically the next slide, writing Georgia Tech essays. Let's just go there and finish up fast. Sorry, I'm taking so long. Okay, so I don't know about you, but when I was like writing essays, I really hated writing why college essays because they don't allow for any creativity. It's all facts, okay? But like, yeah, just stick to the facts. Think about what you would actually do. Like, just imagine you already got in and you have to deal with going here and like all the things like registration and like future planning and like your career path and all that stuff. So like an example sentence is, I will do research with Professor Greg Turk in the graphics lab. This is good because you're like mentioning an actual professor's name. It shows that you did your homework and you went on the website and you Googled stuff like Georgia Tech professors in graphics. And then you saw, oh, Greg Turk works here. I'm going to copy paste his name and put it in my essay. Or I will apply to the Grand Challenges Living Learning Community, which is like a specific program. Also, the prompt is now, why will you do your major at Georgia Tech, not just why will you come to Georgia Tech. So they care a bit about like you looking into what the major requires too. So Georgia Tech CS program has something like very unique called the Threads program. It basically like lets you pick two threads, which is like a concentration, and like combine them, which is sort of interesting. So I did intelligence and media, and I sort of like had a hook that was like, oh, I like art, but it's also tiring to do lots of repetition in this. So I'd like to automate it using artificial intelligence. It's also good to like name specific courses and basically like the big red sentence at the bottom. If you're stuck on the essay, talk about why you're interested in your major, name at least 2 courses, 1 professor from the school that you want to work with, and like 1 extracurricular would be good that the school offers. And that's it. You can like email me at jessiesweet@georgiatech.edu if you have any questions, or like even if you want me to give like essay advice or something, that's all fine. Although I'm not an admissions officer, so don't take everything I say with a grain of salt.
All right. Thank you so much for your presentation. I'll now pass it on to Sydney, who will ask a few questions from our registration form. Thank you.
Hi, so the first question is, what is your favorite part about campus?
Oh, okay. So something really great about the campus is that there's a ton of study spaces. Georgia Tech is like renovating a lot. I know like you think this is probably like annoying and ugly because there's like cranes everywhere, but it is in the city and we have like new buildings being built all the time. So like recently the library got renovated and it's super nice.
Okay, thank you. Our next question is, what are some programs, competitions, or opportunities you had in high school that you felt had a huge impact on your success?
Okay, so I would say participating in the Scholastic Art and Writing Awards, and also there's something called the AMC, American Mathematics Competition, and Mu Alpha Theta. Like sort of like winning regionals at those can like sort of help if you're interested in a STEMmy major. Oh, also doing like internships or like, well, it like internships don't have to be super serious. It can just be like helping someone out with like designing a logo or something. You can still say that's like work, even if it's unpaid.
All right, thank you. I'll pass it off to Marissa now to introduce our next speaker.
I would like to introduce our third speaker, Michelle Zhao. Michelle is a graduate from Rice University studying cognitive sciences and neuroscience. She received her master's in public health studying refugee and immigrant population health disparities. Michelle is now a first-year medical student at Rutgers Robert Wood Johnson Medical School and aspires to go into health policy and practice women's health medicine. Please join me in welcoming Michelle.
Hi guys, give me 1 second while I set up the screen. Okay, can everyone see this?
Yeah, I can see it.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, so as you might have heard from my introduction, my name is Michelle, and I'm just gonna be talking briefly about my high school experience and my college application process. So this is basically the same exact thing that Marissa kindly introduced me with, but I'm just gonna talk a little bit more about it. So I grew up in suburban New Jersey, and that is where I attended high school. My high school was focused more on biotechnology, so I had a very big like STEM upbringing from high school, which is that kind of like sparked my interest in medicine and science. And then I graduated from Rice University in 2018. Where I studied cognitive sciences and neuroscience. And then I also received my master's in public health in community health practice and health disparities a year later. And now I'm a first-year medical student at Rutgers, so I'm back home in New Jersey. And then beyond just like school, some of my academic and just regular interests, I am very interested in like cognitive neuroscience, health biopsychology, health advocacy, and I have a lot of experience working with refugee and immigrant health populations. So I'm really interested in just like the disparities that come with working with a culturally marginalized population. And as Marissa also mentioned, I do hope to go into health policy down the road. And then some other hobbies I have. I like hiking, I like baking, I like doing some videography, like trying to be involved in advocacy, especially what's going on in the world right now. I'm also a big YouTube fan. I've been streaming a lot of Among Us games recently. If you guys also are big fans, that has been taking up a lot of my time. Okay, so high school. I mentioned I went to a biotechnology focused high school. And this is where I developed a passion for biomedical science, research, as well as other subjects. I was really into history at my high school as well. So I took a variety of courses like biotechnology. We took research courses every year. We also took some special elective classes like neuroscience and biopsychology, as well as developmental biology. And then some skills that we developed along the way that I'm sure you guys also can resonate with in high school include just Microsoft Office, doing a lot of like laboratory skills. So at our school, we did a lot of gel electrophoresis, ELISA tests, just a lot of biotechnology lab skills, as well as growing our public speaking skills and collaborating with other students, whether that be in lab groups or just in group projects in general. And basically, the reason why I got really into science in the beginning was the opportunities for research at my high school. And so, as I mentioned previously, every year we had an opportunity to work on an independent research project. And that really sparked my interest in more specifically like biomedical research. So research applied to the field of medicine and improving the health of people. So the projects, started a little bit more basic and got a little bit more biomedical related over the 4 years that I was at high school. So my first project was like looking at protein content among frozen treats like yogurt and ice cream. And then I did some like botanical projects with this plant called the Arabidopsis thaliana. And then my, I guess you could say senior year thesis was looking at resveratrol and catecholamines, which are just things found in like wine, grapes, as well as green tea in the memory and cognitive function of C. elegans, which is this like very special developmental species on the left. And then with those projects, I also not only got to gain a lot of like science lab skills, a lot of science inquiry and observation skills, but I got to practice my public health speaking by doing science fairs and engaging in those projects. So that was really helpful for me because it involved a lot of like planning and making sure that I was being a clear communicator. So I did a lot of competitions like Future Farmers of America, FFA National Agri-Science Fair, as well as some of the local and statewide science fairs in the area that I lived in. So I'm sure you guys either are maybe involved in AP classes or IB classes. At our high school, we didn't have a choice. So we all were automatically enrolled in the IB diploma program. And because we were a small school, we didn't really have a lot of options in terms of like the kinds of classes we took. So we all took IB history, IB math, IB biology. We could choose between IB chemistry or physics. And then we also took IB Spanish and English. And with those classes involved research papers, exams, of course, at the end of senior year, oral presentations, doing a lot of objective notebooks and all that. But the program also required us to get CAS hours, which just essentially were like creativity hours, action hours, and service hours. So from painting to playing musical instruments to just running outside or, of course, like volunteering. And then at the end of senior year, we got to do an extracurricular activity by having a mentor and just kind of volunteering, helping them out with whatever career maybe that we were interested in doing. So this is after we're completely done with high school. So it was a good end to the high school experience. And then some of my other high school extracurriculars other than doing science included doing art. So I think some of the other people were mentioning that you could submit art in the Common App. So that's what I did. I submitted a bunch of my pieces there. I did piano, violin, and was involved in the state orchestra. I also like running and did a lot of volunteering, whether that be at hospitals or at assisted living senior centers. And of course, I also did some research. So I think the summer before my senior year, I did some allergy research at Mount Sinai in New York City, which was really cool. But actually at that experience, up to that point, so this is right before I applied to colleges, I really thought I wanted to be like a PhD in like biotechnology and do like full-on science. But I think through that process, I realized, at least for me personally, I didn't think that it was worth going through a lot of the work life and, the different nuances of being a researcher. I didn't think that was worth it for me. And I definitely wanted to pursue perhaps medicine or some other career that involved like biomedical sciences, but wasn't directly just pure research. So that was an important summer for me. And then within school, I was, an officer with my FFA organization. I did the competitions. I was the president of the local service organization. I was in Spanish Honor Society. I was an officer of National Honor Society. And of course, as I mentioned before, I did some science fairs as well. And then applying to colleges, junior year, I took the SATs. I remember doing like those road trips to visit colleges. And then the summer before my senior year, I mentioned that was when I did the research at Mount Sinai. But I also, at the same time, I studied for the ACTs. I took the ACTs then, and then I started establishing a list of reach, target, and safety schools. And then senior year, I met with my guidance counselor to talk about the skills I wanted reflected in the letters that they give me, that they write for you to the colleges. I met with teachers and mentors to request recommendation letters. So I got a recommendation letter from my biology teacher, as well as my history teacher. So again, kind of like what Jesse was mentioning, definitely just find people that know you best and know your potential the best. Doesn't necessarily have to be like STEM, all STEM or all like language arts. I know sometimes they recommend that you pick like one from each, but I think as long as you get teachers who know you the best, I think that's the best way to go in terms of college, just because you can do whatever you want in college. You're not like limited to a specific field, and colleges recognize that. And of course, with the Common App, this was like a very long time ago, so I don't really remember the specifics, but I definitely focused on my main Common App essay first. I literally just wrote about how much I liked French and like French culture because I was really passionate about it, and I could write a lot about it and express how much I liked it, and that's what I did. And then supplementals, of course. And then I also definitely talked with classmates, spent a lot of time revising and editing each other's essays, which I think is very, very valuable, just to get another second pair of eyes. And then I didn't apply like early decision anywhere. I was very open into where I wanted to go. So I applied, I think, early action and also regular decision for all of my colleges. And I did interviews when it was possible. And then again, I was open to wherever I wanted to go. I did want to get it out of New Jersey. I was really interested in just moving to some other part of the country. And some of the things that I personally valued were obviously good education. For me, more specifically, I wanted somewhere that offered strong science research, and more importantly, more than anything else, a really strong sense of community, just because college is a very big point of socialization in one's life. So I definitely wanted a good support system. I was personally not interested in Greek life. That was just something that I didn't prioritize. And I also wanted to go somewhere that was either in a city or a college town, again, with the whole idea of social support. And I didn't want to go to a very big school. And of course, I didn't want to go to a super expensive school. So that is how I came upon Rice. I'll probably talk more about the specifics about Rice and the opportunities in the next couple of seminars, but the reason why I chose Rice were because they didn't have Greek life. That wasn't the main reason, but that was one of the things that kind of fit what I wanted. Instead, Rice has residential college systems. So think Hogwarts, you're kind of placed in these different houses, and you spend, each house has like all 4 years, you spend all 4 years living in that dorm, having specific, each like residential college has different cultures and different traditions, and we compete against each other. So it's a very integrated and very supportive community. It's also a strong science school. It was next to the largest medical center in the world. So I thought, you know, maybe if I want to be a doctor, this wouldn't be a bad place to end up. And it was also a new city, which made me really excited. It's super diverse and it was relatively cheaper. At the time when I did apply, they did not have like the amazing like half scholarship and full scholarship for students that they announced a couple years ago. But relative to other schools, it was cheaper. And they had a really strong emphasis in the quality of life and student community, which again, above all, is all I wanted at the end of the day. And also my sister went here, so I was a little familiar with it, but I also was about to not apply to Rice as well, but then my sister was like, I feel like it's the perfect school for you. And I think it was. So ultimately some tips with, you know, high school experience and applying to college. I think that a lot of people think of high school as a means to an end. Like you're trying to go through high school and do all the right things to go to college and get into your dream college. But I highly valued my high school experience. I thought it was very formative years, and I'm still really close to all of my friends there. And we still talk about like our crazy memories at high school. So I think you should really savor the moments that you have in high school. Make meaningful connections with peers and mentors. That's a common theme in your life that you will probably continue to do in your professional career, but it's never too late to begin. Take advantage of exploring what you enjoy, obviously. And again, only apply to colleges you would actually go to, because there's no point in doing it and spending the money and going through the effort and potentially taking a spot from someone who really wants to go if you're not actually going to go in the end. But of course, be open-minded. Make sure that, you know, your mind can change sometimes, and you might end up changing down the road into what you prioritize as well. Engage in extracurriculars you want to continue beyond college. And also what you enjoy in high school may not necessarily be what you end up doing down the road. And as you may, if you follow me in the next couple of seminars, you may end up finding that to be the case. And then, of course, during your senior year, just take proactive steps to ensure that you're prepared for the application process. For me personally, I was fortunate enough to have a specific class dedicated to just focusing on college. So just make sure to allot a good chunk of your time to doing that. And then at the end of the day, don't compare yourself to others, especially during the application process. And then I guess that's all I have here, but I think there are a couple of questions that I can go through really quickly.
Yeah, there are a couple of questions in the chat.
Yes.
And I first want to say that presentation was really great. I really enjoyed hearing.
Thank you.
From the chat, I see, how do you recommend we get involved in research by ourselves?
So it is hard. I think I definitely recommend, well, for me personally, what I did is I kind of cold emailed people, which can work. And I feel like a lot of people get research opportunities that way. I know as a high schooler, applying for research opportunities can be a little bit intimidating, but at the end of the day, especially if you're not expected to be paid, a lot of research PIs definitely welcome you with open arms, and a lot of the good ones, they will want to be your mentors. So I definitely recommend doing that. You could also look up a list of high school research summer experiences. I'm sure they have a lot of programs. So those are kind of the two main ways I feel, at least in high school, that you can do. And
we also have a question from the Google form. And it's, what is the best way to get merit-based scholarships at Rice?
Well, I cannot speak from personal experience on that, unfortunately. But I think at least for Rice personally, they really care about how well-rounded and how passionate you are about what you like. It's definitely not all about numbers. It's not about ticking off the right boxes. They really want to get to know your personality. And if you're interested in weird things, that's totally fine. If you're passionate about, that's great. And I think in terms of merit scholarships, obviously, they may take into account the numbers, the SAT scores, the ACT scores, the GPA, of course. But if it comes to choosing between two people who have the same numbers, they will definitely look into your Common App. I don't know if you guys are familiar, but Rice has this special supplemental question, which asks you to submit a picture. It's called the Rice box. It's not really, doesn't really make a big deal. It doesn't affect their decision, but I think that question kind of reflects what they're interested in. It's they care about how individualistic you are, what you think is passionate and showing your personality. So I think that's some stuff that they care about personally.
Okay. So I have another question from the Google form. It is, what's your advice on time management and loaded schedules?
Yeah, I'm still working on that now. I'm a big fan of Google Calendar. I think personally it's changed my life. So I think time management, I'm very goal oriented. So I tend to if I write down what I want to do by the end of the day, by the end of the week, I will probably want to do it just because it gives me satisfaction physically just crossing something out of my list. In terms of time management, I definitely recommend you prioritize what you want to do first, what you think is most important. And sometimes I like getting the little stuff out of the way as well. So I think it's definitely a learning process, but just figure out what works well for you. And I think that you will definitely succeed.
Okay, I think this will be the last question. Someone asked in the chat, how did you study for the ACT?
It's interesting because I think I studying for the SAT was different from my experience studying for the ACT. I did the classic going to court, going to an actual course and getting taught with, how to take the SATs. But with the ACT, it was kind of almost impromptu for me. I literally just bought the main book and just went through it. I found as many free practice tests as possible and I just did all of them and I just kept on doing that. So I highly, highly emphasize, especially when it comes to practice tests, just like doing questions over and over again. That's the same thing that I learned from like studying for the MCAT as well. So as someone who's not personally naturally good at standardized tests, I really do recommend just giving yourself the time and giving yourself the opportunity to practice as much as possible.
Okay, I think that was a really good tip. Unfortunately, I think that's all the time we have for now, and I would like to pass it on to Alex to introduce our final speaker.
All right, thank you so much, Marissa. Our next speaker, Anna Hudson, is a freshman at Stanford University, and she is currently studying bioengineering. She graduated from Collierville High School in Collierville, Tennessee at the top of her class as a talented French horn player and science educator. She enjoys meditation and spontaneous trips to the beach in her spare time. So please, join me in welcoming Anna.
Hi, everyone. So I have a quick presentation. So I'm going to share my screen. Can everybody see it? Okay, perfect. So as Alex said, I went to Collierville High School, which is in Tennessee, and now I'm at Stanford. I'm going to do kind of a flipped format where I talk about high school my college application first, and then tell you about high school, just so you can understand my high school experience like in the context of my college app. So I think one of the most important things about your college applications is they help you really reflect on your high school experience and understand what was valuable to you and what's important to you, which can help you a lot later in college. So even though they seem frustrating a lot and can be really tiring, I think they can really help you if you are intentional with them and think about how you want to structure your life later. I applied to 20 colleges, about 3 safeties and 17 reaches, which was right for me, but that's definitely not the strategy for everybody. So I would say a lot of times people will tell you, you should apply to 10 colleges or 5 reach and 3 safety, or these very specific numbers. And unless it's somebody who you really trust and know, and somebody you know where they understand your situation really well, you should take their advice with a grain of salt, because everybody's situation is different and the right number for you might not be the same as the right number for somebody else. So just don't really worry about what other people are doing unless you know they're on their side and you know they understand you. Also, I want to say rewrote my Common App essay 7 times. And so if you have to keep starting over, it's totally fine. Starting over is going to help you have a better essay. So just don't get discouraged when it's a long process. And then I know some of the other speakers said that editing with friends is really good and helpful, and it can definitely be helpful, but also sometimes your friends will start to edit like your style more than things that are technically correct or not. So just whenever people give you edits, make sure you take them with a grain of salt also, and think about if it's something you would actually say. Sometimes people will change things just because they would say it differently when it's not necessarily better. So just keep an eye out for edits that actually help your writing and edits that change it but aren't really helping. And then another thing that's really important in your essays is just being genuine. All of the admissions officers can tell when you're faking something or it's not how you really feel. So it's always a better route to be genuine and true to who you are. And then I think this is the most important one, is to tell a cohesive story in your application. So before I turned in all my applications, I thought about how all of my essays fit together and how my essays fit together with my activities and my rec letters, and what the admissions officer would think of me when they read everything in my application. And then after I thought about that, then I would always ask myself, is there an important part of me that's missing from here? And if there was, I would find a way to fill it in. So just make sure that everything makes sense together and you're not leaving out anything that's really important to you. The next thing is you want to qualify everything you do with statistics. So for example, if you led a volunteering project, make sure you say, I helped 150 people. That sounds a lot more impressive than just saying, I volunteered at a food bank. So every time you do something, I think it's really helpful to write down those numbers so you don't forget them, because it's hard to remember like how many people you might have served like 3 years later. And then the last thing is consistency. You probably hear this a lot, but if you can do activities for multiple years or show consistency in them, it seems a lot more like you have a lot more passion than if you just do things randomly. Okay, so in early high school, I literally had no idea what was going on. I knew I wanted to go to a good college, but I had no idea how to get there. So I tried out a lot of different clubs. I wrote them down here, but I tried German, UNICEF, robotics club, Habitat for Humanity, Key Club, Writing Olympics, Science Olympiad, and band. And from that, I learned what I wanted to do and what I didn't really enjoy. So I think it was helpful to join a lot originally just to figure out what I liked. But once again, know your limits, don't do things that you can't handle. And then I also laid a strong academic foundation. Starting from freshman year, I always just took the hardest classes that I knew I could handle and got the best grades I could. And then winning awards as a underclassman really helped me get leadership positions later in high school. And also joining clubs as a freshman can give you a big advantage over other people. So if you're not sure if you want to join something, it can be helpful to join it early. And then it's better to join it early and quit than to join it late and lose the opportunity to have a leadership position or a more prominent role in the club. Okay, so in the middle of high school, I realized that I wasn't really doing things the right way. I kind of felt like I was wasting my time a little bit because a lot of my clubs at school didn't really do much. They would say they have a purpose and then like have one event for the whole school year, and they were just not very active. And when I tried to take a more active role in the club, I received a lot of pushback from the administration or like the teachers leading the club, and I just felt kind of stuck there. And so this is when I realized that it was kind of better to do things on my own. And so after that, I started thinking about what areas in my community I could have an impact in. And I thought about what skills I have and what's important to me and which things I could actually make a change in. So for example, like, I don't think I could make a change in who the next president can be, but the science activities I did are something that even though they're not the biggest problem in the world right now, it's a problem that I can help tackle. So I think it's really important to focus on what you have the skills to do and what skills you can learn. It's also important to learn them along the way. So after I realized I should just do my own activities outside of school and didn't feel confined to the school's extracurriculars, I started to do a lot more with my time. So these are my out of school activities. I wrote them down just so it's easier for you guys to understand. So the first thing I did was I founded an environmental camp for kids. I decided that I wanted to have this environmental camp because there weren't any in my town, and the only science activities I could find were really expensive, and I wanted to be a lot more accessible. So once I decided this is what I want to do, I thought more about the logistics of how to actually do it. And so I went to my town's Parks and Recreation department and found the director there and just called her out of nowhere. I just cold called her and said, I want to do this. Can you help me? I will do all the publicity, manage all the money, find all the people, lead the whole camp, teach everything. All you have to do is say yes and let me use your space. And so I think a key lesson from that is when you're asking for people to help you with things, it's really important to say, I will do all of the work. You just have to say yes. And then that makes people a lot more likely to say yes so you can achieve your goals. So that camp, I started talking to the director about in January of my 10th grade year. And then the camp was over the summer between 10th and 11th grade for me. So after that, I realized that I really love teaching kids and teaching kids about science. And that kind of set me off on this path to do a lot more things like that. So after that, I founded a science education nonprofit. And another example of qualifying is when I talked about the nonprofit in my college app essays, I would say like over 1,200 people attended our programs. We had over 400 volunteer hours, like over 30 volunteers, and we had events in over 6 states. And then I would also say we partnered with other organizations like the US Space and Rocket Center, the Magic House Children's Museum in St. Louis, the YMCA, the Memphis Public Libraries, things like that. It's important to think about what are the most impressive statistics that you can list to put on your college applications, just because if you don't say them, they'll never know. And you sound a lot more credible when you can back yourself up with statistics. So whenever you're doing things, just remember to write the statistics down. I wish I would have thought about that earlier. Another thing I did is I founded an education program at the Memphis Botanic Garden. That worked basically the same way. I just sent them an email and I said, hi, I have experience in this field before because I did this environmental camp and I have this nonprofit and I want to teach kids at the Botanic Garden. This is my idea. And I told them about some possible lessons I wanted and how I wanted to structure the program. And then I just said, can I come and do it? And they said yes. And I think that was really important because working with them I learned some extra lessons because they had science educators there too. So if there is something you're passionate about, it can be really helpful to find a mentor or other people in a long-lasting organization that are doing similar things that you can learn from. And then I also founded 2 elementary school science clubs. For this one, I tried to cold email them and I failed, and we couldn't do it that way. They just said no, and we didn't get a reply. But then after they said no, I went to my science teacher and I got her to talk to their principal, and then they said yes. So another lesson is when people say no originally, you can usually get a yes later if you keep pushing and go through a different route or use your connections. So don't give up if it doesn't work the first time. I also founded my own music ensemble and arranged performances. So I played French horn, and when I was a freshman, I knew that I wanted to be playing with people who were a lot better than me. And so I talked to my friends who were like seniors and juniors in high school, and I convinced them to join this horn ensemble. And then we would go play at nursing homes and like at the mall and different stores, just so we could have different places to perform. And what I was trying to do with this is like I realized that performing a lot more and playing with those older kids would help me a lot. And there weren't any opportunities for that easily available. So I just made the opportunity and set it up. So another important lesson is if the opportunity isn't there, just make the opportunity. You can do it yourself. I was also in youth symphony. I was principal horn from freshman to senior year. So that wasn't too big of a time commitment. It was just on the weekends and I really enjoyed it. So it's also important to do things that you enjoy. And then in my summers, I went to governor's school for the arts. And then I did Interlochen Arts Camp. And also I got scholarships for both of those. So a lot of summer programs, some of them are very expensive and some are free, and there's some in the middle. So I was just looking for ones that had scholarships or were free. And it's really important to just think about how much money you have to spend on a program before you start looking at them. Because if they don't offer scholarships, you don't want to get your hopes up before you find out that you just can't do it. I also taught music lessons to underclassmen in high school, and I did triathlon and I won awards in that every year. And the triathlon, once again, was on my own outside of school. Okay, and then for my in-school activities, an important thing to note in this is the consistency. So for Science Olympiad, I joined my freshman year and I was captain of state awards. I also did Technology Student Association, which is like an engineering club. I was president. I also won state awards in that. I did Wordsmith Writing Olympics and I was captain and I won local awards in that. And I was in that every year in high school. And then another note about that is I would really recommend joining a writing club if your school has it, especially if you're an underclassman, because learning how to write really well, even if it's a little bit of a different context than college apps, can really help you in your college apps because you learn how to articulate what you mean while you're writing. So I would really recommend that if you have one. I also did school band. So this is supposed to say brass captain. I was brass captain, section leader, and then I went to All West, All State, and All National honor band and honor orchestra. I did that every year in high school. And another example of qualifying with statistics that I mean is like when I was brass captain, my section that I was in charge of had 80 people in it. So if you say I was brass captain and I led 80 people, it's much more impressive than if you just say I was brass captain, because they might just think that you were in charge of like 20 people or something, and that's a big difference. I was also treasurer of the Music Honor Society, and I was a freshman mentor, junior and senior year. And then I also did some random clubs at school. Like this is Gamma Tau Lambda, which was just a random service club that didn't do that much. I was in German club just for fun, and environmental club, which was just for fun. We didn't do that much. So if you have activities that are just for fun, it's totally fine to have them, and it can be really good because it makes your day a lot more exciting. But just remember that if you don't do much in the club, the admissions officers will know, and it's not really going to help you on your college app. So think about your activities that you want to include, because for these things, I knew they would know I wasn't really doing anything and it wouldn't help me at all. So I just used more space to focus on these activities that I actually did things in and didn't include the other things like German or environmental club. Okay, before I get to questions, a couple other things about my college applications. I took the ACT for the first time the summer before my sophomore year. and I got a score that I was pretty satisfied with. I got a 35 then. So I took it one more time. And then after that, I just thought that the difference between a 35 and a 36 was insignificant. So I didn't bother to take it again. And most of the people I know at Stanford don't have a 36. So I think that once you get to a 35 and maybe even a 34, working more on your ACT isn't really worth it. And working more on extracurriculars is a lot more important and will help your application a lot more. So that's something to keep in mind. I took the SAT once and I don't remember my score, but I knew I did better on the ACT, so I just didn't use that score at all. And then I also took SAT subject tests in biology and math. And I took those right after my AP exams for those classes. So at the end of my junior year, I took them right after I finished AP Bio and AP Calc BC. And then for my recommendations, I got one from my science teacher because she knew a little bit about the nonprofit I had. And then I got one from my English teacher because I wanted to have somebody who had a science perspective on me and somebody who had a humanities perspective on me too. And then I also got a supplemental recommendation from my French horn teacher because she'd been teaching me for 4.5 years and I'd been teaching lessons with her for 2 years at that point. So she saw me in a lot of different contexts and she saw a lot of growth from me. And so I knew I could trust her to say good things about me and provide another perspective. So I had her write it, a recommendation too. And then I think that's all for college applications. And then for supplementals, I would just say the most important thing is to think about how they fit together. You want to make sure you're showing yourself in a variety of contexts and just showing everything important about yourself and don't leave out things that are big parts of you. And then I think the biggest takeaway is that if there aren't opportunities there and what you want to do isn't really available, just start it yourself and do it yourself. And it can always be really scary, especially at the beginning and when people say no. But if you keep pushing, you can really do a lot. I never thought I'd be able to do any of the stuff I started, but now looking back, it seems so easy. All you have to do is like look on the internet and say, how do I start a nonprofit? And they'll tell you how to go through the documents. Or you say, how do I, like, I think it's a combination of like internet, knowing what you have to do, just thinking through it and thinking of what do I think somebody would even do if they were starting this type of thing. And then if you have strong mentors in your community, you should definitely use them. And using those 3 tools together, you can pretty much start almost whatever you want. And then the last thing is that a lot of times, if you can find a good mentor, it's really helpful and valuable. But if most of the people that you know are just telling you not to do things or that you can't do things and things like that, then just don't listen to them. Don't listen to people who try to pull you down and tell you that you're not capable of things because they're not right. And you can do things if you really try. And then if you have any more personal questions that you want to email, my email is right here. You can email me anytime. Okay, does anybody have questions?
All right. Well, thank you, Anna, so much for that phenomenal presentation. And like you said, it's incredibly inspiring to hear your central message of your story, which is that even if you can't find the opportunities in your life that you want, you can still go out and create them yourself. So that was incredibly inspiring. And like Anna said, if you guys have any questions for her, feel free to drop that into the Zoom chat and we will have Anna answer a couple of them. And it looks like there's one right now. May asks, how did you find the summer camps that you did?
Sure. So basically, first I thought about what type of curriculum I wanted to have, and I just decided environmental camp because that was the science I was most comfortable with teaching at the time. So I thought about my skill set and thought that would be the one that I could do best. And then I realized, I thought about different venues I could have it at, and the best place I could think of was my local park. And so the only way I could have an organized event at my local park was to work with the parks department. So that's why I got them involved and called the parks director and talked to her. And the reason I didn't just do it on my own without any other help is because of liability. And if a kid got hurt, I didn't want to be responsible. And if I went through the parks department, then the parks department is the one who has to deal with the legal issues. So I think little things like that are important to think about. But basically, I called the parks director, told her what I wanted to do. And then when she said yes, I made flyers and distributed them throughout towns and emailed different schools with the flyer too, to ask their teachers to tell their kids to get involved. And I advertised it on Facebook. And then I did a lot of research online for environmental activities and made up some of my own and just found the ones that I thought would teach the kids the most and put those together. And then when it came to actually teaching, we had things like nature walks, we made compost and talked about recycling and stuff like that. So I think it's just important to like be in the moment and think about, if you were a kid, how would you be taught best, and try to teach the kids the same way. I also have some direct messages in the Zoom chat, so I will answer those so they don't get missed. Somebody says, what are some tips to stay focused and productive, and how long did each application take you? So some tips to stay focused, I would say the most important thing is just to remember your goals and think about what's important to you and what you want to do long term in your life. Because if you're thinking about these huge goals, it's not too hard to work. And then how long did I work on each application? Probably the supplements for each application took me about 5 or 6 hours. When I first started, they took a lot longer. When I first started writing one essay, it took me like 3 hours, and then it would take me like 2 hours to edit it. But since I applied to so many colleges, when I got to the end, I was writing supplements very quickly just because I got a lot better at writing. So at the end, one supplement probably took me 45 minutes and then 10 minutes, or then like maybe 30 more minutes to edit. So I think it really depends, but make sure you put in all the time that you have. The next private question is, for the nonprofits, do you think it's important to be certified as 501c3? So I think being certified as 501c3 can be helpful just because it makes your organization seem more credible to the people reading your application. So I think if that's possible for you, it is a good move.
All right, thank you so much, Anna. I think that's all the time we have for now. So thank you so much for coming today. Thank you for answering those questions. And we really enjoyed your presentation today. I'm going to go ahead and hand it back off to Marissa.
Thanks, Alex. So I would like to thank everyone who joined our first college seminar, and there were so many great questions, and an extra special thank you to all of our speakers who did a absolute phenomenal job. I would also like to thank our sponsor, Connections Tutoring Center, and I hope everyone enjoyed the seminar and learned something today. And also just a quick reminder, we didn't get to all the questions from the registration form if you put any on the form, so we'll try to get to it on the next seminar. And now I want to pass it to Amanda.
Thank you, Marissa. So this was the first part of our two-part series for college seminars, and the next one will be 2 weeks from now on January 23rd. It's the same time, 4:30 EST, and using the same links. So the topic of our next seminar is college academics and also social life from the same speakers who will again give kind of their personal experiences and what they felt in their respective colleges. So we've also been streaming the seminars on YouTube Live on the Math Invitational for Girls channel. So feel free to watch those again if you want to, and you can also send them to your friends if you think they are also interested in these colleges. So if anybody has any questions, you can reach out to the email mathinviteforgirls@gmail.com, and also the emails from the speakers that were on the presentations. So that will pretty much wrap up our seminar. So again, thank you to everyone for coming, and thank you so much to our speakers for taking the time out of their schedules to kind of tell us a little bit more about their lives. So yeah, that is pretty much it. I will see everybody next time. Bye.